That works? Okay. Yeah. They asked me if I was going to play, but I'm a professor, so I have no talent. I just teach. That's what you do. If you have no talent, you teach. Anyway, um, uh, John was, as many people have spoken really eloquently about John's influence on their lives. And John certainly had the same kind of influence on my life. He taught me my first programming. He hired me into Digital Equipment Corporation in my first job. And throughout John's life, he had an impact on all the people who came in contact with him. But there's another impact that's slightly different from the impact that he had on people. And that is the impact that he had on the industry and of the science of studying how to make computers usable for people. That was one of his earlier missions. And Holly asked me to tell a funny story about one of his experiences along that journey. So I'll tell this story. So this is back in 1983.
It's okay.
And nobody had computers in their home, and nobody much used computers. They were all big machines. DEC had some of the first time sharing machines. And Digital Equipment Corporation had one of the most successful products in history. It was called the VT100. It was a terminal that connected to computers, and we sold over 1 million of them. And competitors copied them all the way down to the screws. They just copied them completely and produced them. We got involved, and John got involved in a committee to design the next generation of digital's terminals and keyboards. And so he took on this challenge, and he took his background in psychology and his background in research and applied principles of psychology, grouping of keys into logical sets, etc. And he also applied principles of scientific research, collecting data about how people actually worked on a computer and using that, analyzing that quantitative data and using it to design the new keyboard. And it was the first time that that kind of research had ever been applied in Digital Equipment Corporation. But it turned out that once the keyboard was designed and it was all ready to be shipped, etc., it was just before Christmas, and there was a meeting of the executive committee at DEC. And John was summarily called to this meeting. And so he fortunately picked up an armful of research reports, and he went to the meeting. And he came into this meeting, and it's snowing outside in Maynard, and here are all these senior executives in the company sitting around a table looking very stern and serious. And in the middle of the table is the keyboard that we had worked on and designed. And the vice president of engineering of the corporation said, "John, tell me you're not responsible for this." And so he started to politely explain some of the principles involved. He handed out his research reports. He talked about the research that had been done and gone into the keyboard, etc. And one of the people on the committee was a secretary for one of the senior managers. And when John got done with his presentation to the entire assembled group of executives, she said, "Bullshit," because she loved the old keyboard. And we were changing things which she didn't like. But it turned out that in the end, the truth actually, rarely, this happens in corporations, the truth won out. The keyboard was accepted and shipped, and it became an industry standard. Most of the keyboards that you see on current computers have that same design, with a typing array, a numeric array, arrow keys in the shape of a T in the center, function keys in groups. That was all due to John's work and to John's inspiring us to do that work, and also to John's courage to stand in front of the executive committee of the second largest computer company in the world and defend what we had done, because it was right and he was right. And that's something that many of us in industry learned from John and carried with us throughout our career. It was a basic slogan of DEC: do the right thing. And John taught us that, and he lived that. And many of us have followed that principle throughout our careers, even if we did end up in teaching at the end.